You guys are set?
So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session organized by the Association of Civil Engineering Students at Kenyatta University. My name is Ahmad Sabri. I am the current president of the Association of Civil Engineering Students. I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar. Uh, our moderator for today is going to be Anthony, who is our publicity secretary. So special thanks for Anthony for volunteering for this task and also inviting our guest. So welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot, Patrick, for having this session with us. So unfortunately, I'm representing the Association of Civil Engineering Students at an event with IEK, that is the Future Leaders Dinner. So I won't be with you throughout the event, but I'm going to follow through afterwards, definitely. So thanks a lot, and Anthony, you can take the mic.
Okay, thank you very much, Ahmad. So our guest for today is Mr. Patrick Mwangi, who is our construction project manager, and he brings with him a wealth of experience in the field of construction management. He's also the also I'll only introduce him a little bit, then he'll take over and I'll give him the honors to introduce himself more. He's also the head of corporate affairs and communications and marketing at ACMK, that is the Association of Construction Managers of Kenya. So just a few house rules. The session we'll record the session for maybe those who might not were not able to join us and would like to get to know what was said in the session. We'll also have a Q&A session at the end, but in the meantime you can just type your questions in the chat box as the session progresses. Thank you. So please welcome Mr. Patrick Mwangi. The session is yours.
Thank you, Anthony, and all. Unfortunately, I may not be able to open my camera, but I'm sure you'll be following from the screen, which is very visible. So, as you've heard, my name is Patrick Mwangi. Just push forward to the next slide. Uh, yeah, that is me, a construction manager by profession in this sector. I'm a mentor. I'm a huge advocate for good policies in our sector. For those who have interacted on Twitter, I'm CPM Mwangi over there. And I'm also an executive official at the Association of Construction Managers of Kenya and practice at Rickface Construction Limited. So I'm a huge fan of collaboration and cooperation in terms of anything that creates unity of purpose with a commitment to excellence and for the better of the industry. So I was invited by Anthony to speak about project management, and I'll try to tailor it, given that I'm sure that you are engineers, which is okay because every profession has an aspect of PM that they do. So, what is PM? And fun fact I've written down there: a PM is someone who believes that 9 women can deliver a baby in 1 month. A PM is someone who believes that 9 women can deliver a baby in 1 month. Just to pick someone here, uh, if you have an idea of what that means, Vivian. I see somebody called Vivian.
Yes.
Yes, who are you first?
I am Vivian Alichula, a fourth year student at Kenyatta University taking civil engineering, and I
Okay.
also serve as the treasurer of ACES.
Okay. Why aren't your members here? It seems it's only an official affair.
We are trying to rally them. I think most of them have other commitments, school commitments, but
Okay.
they will be coming very soon. I think we can wait a little bit.
Yeah, what do you understand by that statement?
Uh, Let me try think, but I find it funny though.
Tobias,
Kindly just repeat the question, please.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, what is.
Read through the bottom right.
Uh, yeah, the question on the screen is what is project management, right?
No, no, no. I've said read on the bottom right. There's a fun fact there.
A project manager is someone who believes that 9 women can deliver a baby in 1 month. Uh, Let me gasp it. A project manager is someone who believes that 9 women can deliver a baby in 1 month. Uh, According to the statistic in Kenya, we all understand that the number of women are more than men. Sindio?
No, no, no. You're a little loud, off the grid,
Mm-hmm.
because this is something relating to what I'm about to present.
Uh-huh.
Or can we tie it to project management as per what you understand it?
Uh-huh. I think you can give me some little time to maybe reflect on it, and then I give you feedback after that.
Vivian, you have an idea now? Quickly we proceed.
I'm thinking maybe he's someone that ensures deliverables have been done, no matter how difficult it is to achieve them. And he or she ensures that they are delivered on time.
It's basically somebody who is under pressure to deliver unrealistic expectations. That's the basic definition, and it's the life of a PM. So, when somebody is usually asked what a project is, they normally tend to think of construction projects. A project is anything with a start time and an end time, with a combination of resources to achieve the desired objective. That is it. Now, in this sector is where now we combine it to the scope, time, cost, and quality. And on that note, you've heard somebody say, I have an operation, I have a procedure. From the definition of a project, Anthony, what will you describe to be an operation?
Eh, to be an operation, I think is an operation is like a task that is done with a given aim to achieve a given aim or an objective.
You have just described a project. Michael, Oiti,
Yes, I think an operation is the actual mechanism that is employed to achieve the goal or the objective.
what do you mean by mechanism?
Strategy, a plan.
No, not really.
Okay.
You see, even a project is not a plan by itself, it's a combination of different activities. It's not a standalone.
Okay.
So the difference between an operation and a project is that an operation is a continuous thing, and the objectives may change from time to time. It does not have to be, the end goal is having a bungalow, 6 bedroom, whatever. For operation, it can change. You are moving from, perhaps you're working towards excavating 100 kilometers of a CO line, then you move to, instead of excavating that, you excavate to 60, then you come and do later another 60. That way, now that becomes an operation. It's more of continuous, goals can change, resources can change, etc. So every project is symbolized by initiation, that is now the project idea, the dream that is being transformed into the reality. Now you check its feasibility, and this cuts across. Even if you're building a bungalow, you have to check that your land is correct in terms of ownership. You have to check that you're in the right neighborhood. You have to check that you're doing the right kind of structure depending on the zoning approvals, etc. Planning is now where you develop something called a project charter. This is what now allocates responsibilities, defines who is who, to the extent of which they can do the activity, and so on and so forth. You do a schedule that gives you the end date and start date, defines them, and also allocates, ties activities to the time that they take, and also can allocate a particular cost at every stage. And you also allocate resources. It can be labor, it can be materials, and many more. So when you come to the execution now, you implement what you've planned. And here it's usually about managing teams, and that is labor, and coordinating the architect, the engineer, and all other consultants, and also communicating with stakeholders. Stakeholders, as you'll come to see later, it's anyone with interest in the project. This starts from the guy that approval, you communicate with the NCA, Kanjo well enough, communicate with the neighbors well enough, because disputes occur on site anyway, and you find that your neighbors might come and say, this wall perhaps it was developed into my compound, make sure yours reaches here, and so on and so forth. That aspect is also important, and also now the client. So monitoring and controlling, if you plan something, you must control how it is implemented, otherwise it will be out of scope. And these are now the change orders that usually occur. People, you order materials, you had agreed to order a certain sum, it becomes an excess, that now becomes a waste. So this is where monitoring comes in. And then all the way to the end, now it is the closure. When the project ends, you do the handover. Uh, Handover, there are various documents used also on the same. And what people usually miss is conducting a post-project evaluation. You have to assess how well your architect did and where is to improve. You have to get the feedback from the client. Right after the defects liability period, you have to also, people don't check on that, but you also visit the structure to see anything. Perhaps sometimes mistakes happen, even if you're supposed to be perfect and all that. So it helps to clearly check your progress. And to close out on that is all in all, the first aspect of being a good executor, a good planner, a good implementer is being a true leader. People usually thrive on direction. When you sit in site meetings, people will argue there, then turn to you, PM, what do we do? And actually, for your case, you won't be the PM, you will be perhaps the lead consultant. A lead consultant is any professional that will be appointed by the client directly, who reports to the client. So you're asked, Mr. Engineer, what do we do? You cannot be there clueless. And you see, also on one end, you should be able to exercise diplomacy. When ideas are brought to you, it's your work to range them and give the best possible outcome. Not a matter of saying, this engineer is the eldest, let's go with him. This one, even a small, even a casual can come with a solution on the table. And you also be an excellent communicator. You have to use very well filtered language. You have to be very precise as possible, especially in the emails that you write or any other documentation, even those site instructions on site. Yeah, whatever we normally say, whatever has not been written has not been said, keeping those records. Sorry, the second one is an error. Correct it. So what is about implementation and AI in the industry? And there's also another fun fact there, which is actually very true. Perhaps Cedric, you can tell us what it means.
Pardon?
Can you see the fun fact right below?
Oh, yeah, yeah, garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, I was looking for it. It's called me honor. Um, okay, I would say it's probably um, okay. If if whatever you plan for, whatever the information which you feed to yourself, if it's the wrong information, and if you plan for whatever you're going to do, poorly, obviously the end result will also be something not substantial. It would be something bad, or yeah, it would be something bad and not substantial. That is what I would understand by it.
Yeah, that is correct, and especially in this talk of AI. Now, AI was brought here to improve efficiency, not to do the whole work. That's what people usually confuse it with, because the whole work has been done and is still being done by human beings with the capacity that they have. But what they don't have, our brains cannot assemble data in a way that they can clearly analyze the way forward. They can clearly spot clashes. Unless now with the people with experience are the ones who can do that, but they're also not correct all the time. And it's usually a given scale. A consultant, a 60-year-old engineer can be on one massive site at a time, or two or three per year. So a farm has 10 sites. 10 sites cannot be in the head of one person. So this is how AI is implemented. And the various forms, there is the actual AI itself, the other forms of AI, which are not particularly, but I'll say part of invention that came with AI, like BIM. And AI is all about predictive analytics. So you analyze data from past project, actually what I was speaking about in the closeout, even the entire process of PM, all data is gathered, how it happened, how it went through. So that's now when you go forward to other steps, it is clear about what to expect, what to avoid, and what to do better. At the same time, it's about stimulation. There is this site called Open Space AI. I'm sure you've heard of it. Those on LinkedIn, you can check a profile of somebody called Michael Gula. There's a lot of digital twins. So Open Space does a 360 walkthrough whereby you wear a hard hat helmet on top of your head with a 360-degree camera. So you walk on site, it picks the information all through. Then you come, sit down, and then it documents that information. So over time, it checks the coordination of all those elements in the building. Now you're coming back to BIM, and per every construction phase, it's able to check the integrity, it's able to check the workflow, and also stimulating for better results. So the benefits are very clear. It's increasing accuracy in risk prediction, enhanced decision making, because you know what you're expecting. Remember the first point of about a PM believing 9 women, blah blah blah. Now it is clear what is coming. I think unless it is force majeure, which is usually compensated, it is clear what to expect and at what time. And for that reason, all that contingency budget is also withdrawn, and also the aspect of safety. Now, these softwares are usually very expensive, like a package of that open space. I think it begins at around 1.2 million, which is not a cheap investment. Depending on, the biggest question people usually ask is, do you need it, given your current status of having projects and all those things? So data privacy concerns. When you do a normal work report or whatever activities that happen, remember it's only the specific person who has that file. When it's in a cloud, someone else can basically hacking, or people having authorized access, then they're able to take your information, use that information to use it in other projects, and remember yourself, you're paying for that process. Then also AI, it needs people who have firstly accepted to work with it, who know how to work with it, and who will use it ethically. And that brings me to the point that AI is not a threat but evolves around your collaboration with it. People argue so much will be replaced. I don't know, jobs will diminish, but it is you who does not want to collaborate with it who will be phased out. Because remember, even on the issue of cost, if a machine is doing something that five people do, remember you're paying for a package for a whole year. And if you compare to the workflow of the whole team, it is now the opposite. It will be saving the company's cost. And also remember, on the point of people accepting and knowing how to work with it, if people feed a lot of nonsense, because most people think AI is there to do work. No, it is there to improve efficiency. So you put nonsense in, nonsense comes out. That's basically it. So AI usually recreates, but does not recreate. Does not create. So what that means is it cannot design a house from scratch. Those prompts that you create using those sites, They are from information that you've fed it. It does not reason as you. Even the outcome of the product is usually a prescribed standard, not a customized format. So just to, because I've mentioned some platforms, which others have you perhaps come across with? Ngugi. Which AI tools in the sector have you come across with, or any inventions?
So far, I've not come across any AI tools.
What of you, Amos? Okay. So what next after PM? Perhaps, Bwana Kamau, you can read for us that fun fact there. Charles Kamau.
Oh, yes. The fun fact says moving is not progress.
What do you understand by it?
Well, what I understand is you can you can be believing that you're going forward, but the action that you or the process of just moving or just not being stagnant does not necessarily mean that you're moving forward or you're going in the correct direction.
Yes, it's more about direction. You can move, but in the wrong direction. So this is a focus about the career paths in project management, and the field is wide, very very wide as a matter of fact. It's not a must you tie yourself to the basic hands-on construction, doing projects and all that. You can venture into financing. This is where you're doing mortgages, you're doing something called housing value chain, where you do the determination of the feasibility studies. These guys, like for instance, the guys in the expressway, you do something called a financing structure, determine who is paying who at what price, what are the contingencies, what are the guarantees. Project feasibilities, your work can only just go as far as determining whether the project is financially viable, legally viable, even structurally viable, because you cannot advise somebody to build on a landmine. Project estimator, this is goes for materials, for labor, for any type of, even of basic human resource. On it can be on site or on the development as a whole. Project coordinator, they are guys who are only their work is coordinating teams and managing the workflow. You coordinate the architect, you coordinate the client, basically maintaining communication and relationship even between the client and the contractor. Mostly is usually done or by the default project lead, but in some scenarios there's an independent career for this. Property manager, so inside here you find facilities management, basically maintenance works, and on the bigger part of property is organizing for rents, for leases. This can be both sides, commercial uh, facilities like Kamasarit, or even residential, now the normal apartments. Project development management. Development management and project management are slightly different. For PM, it's about the project. from start to finish. Development, you found a project underway, perhaps it needs to change course, perhaps it needs to be better, perhaps it has more stakeholders now, especially now for mergers and so on and so forth. So that is also an aspect, and now something we'll also discuss called stakeholder management. Now, this is a stakeholder. Actually, this question is, should be yours. Brian, who do you understand by a stakeholder? Ngugi.
Can I try?
Yeah, yeah.
I think a stakeholder is either an individual or a group or an organization that has interest in a given project and would be affected by its general outcome.
Yeah, that's actually yes. So you can move to the final slide. Felix, you can see the fun fact.
Yeah, I can.
What does it say?
The fun fact says the best closers are pastors.
What do you understand by that?
Uh, Maybe the ones who make a deal go through are those who are good at explaining them and make sure that their clients understand them. Not sure.
Yeah, yeah, you have a bit of the point. So stakeholder management, as Anthony has defined it, is identifying and engaging with individuals who have interest in the project, and they should be shared interest. What I mean by that is that in as much as you want the stake, it must be tied to that project. So the client is the first stakeholder. And the biggest skill you should be having here is diplomacy and the mastery of negotiation. And that's where the pastor comes in. Diplomacy is whereby you're able to tactfully convince someone on a particular approach, on a particular idea, and so on and so forth. So, first is identify and recognize the stakeholders, and you can't miss out on this. Having the wrong people that you're giving respect or any regard conflicts the other people, and also recognize them depending on their own capacity. The first rule, even of meeting a client, is understanding the needs of the client. You have to understand what the client wants. You have to understand, sorry, needs. Needs are a must. A want is not a must. A want by a client is wanting a bungalow like his neighbor. A need, sorry, let me say, a want by a client is demands for a mansionette because his neighbor has one. A need is the client to have a bungalow because he's 60 years old. A mansionette cannot take them anywhere, even if they have the money. Expectations, that has to be clear. And expectations usually follow the budget. You cannot want a villa and the best you can break the bank for is 10 million. And finally, influence of the project. Now this is broad. You don't joke with authorities. You don't joke with malevolent neighbors, and so on and so forth. And finally, engage by communicating and involving them appropriately. If you have gone to site and you find a wall has fallen, be clear to say it. Maintain regular and transparent communication to manage expectations and address concerns. And also, this is where feedback also comes in. Anything that happens, you report, and you report in a diplomatic way. For instance, you go to site, yesterday there were 60 bugs, today there are 59 bugs. Now you don't report immediately. That's where diplomacy comes in. For the case where casting works are done and that one bug which was less, that is now coming to be evident, you be clear that it was lost, because you see, clients can be very emotive, and when a bug is lost, perhaps it's not your fault, but even that phone you brought, you know you're the one who brought him, so you might be liable. So in this case, you be clear that the bug was maybe overused somewhere, or it what do you call this, spoiled bug, in a way that the end message is the loss has occurred. I hope you're getting my point. When the trust is usually established, you'll get the support you need, and the project will move on very smoothly. And what you should never do in any stakeholder management, this is management. When you're doing the first two steps, it is stakeholder engagement. So it's mostly used interchangeably. Withholding information, lying, or deviating from the interest is a very serious conflict that brings up disputes. And when you get to conflicts, automatically it means the trust is lost. So it now shifts from protecting interest to salvaging what is left that everybody can claim in. So that was my submission, and I would like to hear your questions before I pose my final question.
Okay, anyone who would like to pose a question can just raise their hand, or you can also type in the chat box. Then we'll read it out. In the meantime, I have a question for you. So, in different projects, it's fine that a project may take a number of years or months. So, you find that there are changes in it, the project scope, the timeline, or maybe the budget. So, how do you generally deal with that?
First, number one is to identify what was causing the changes, what was changing the change in the change of scope and all other things. What caused that?
Maybe in the scope, it's fine that maybe the client would want to change the scope or change something on the project, maybe, and that would maybe lead into changing the timeline of its completion and such.
Yeah, now that is the client's fault and you held them to account. You jointly explain this has happened. First, you cannot you cannot allow your client to go to site and order foodies to do something. The client must be clear that he must go through you, so that you advise the precautions that will happen if there is such kind of change of events, and then you advise accordingly. You explain this will change, will increase the this will increase the perhaps the time, the budget, etc., and pia yeye ajipange accordingly. So you start by identifying. Have I answered your question?
Oh yes, sure. Then just a follow up. What would you say are the common challenges, for example, in the project that you've done? What are the common challenges that you faced? And also as a project manager, what are the common tools that you use, or maybe softwares that you use in managing some of the projects that you've done?
I don't use any softwares. I just use people. Perhaps during scheduling, I use a concept project. The team that I have, the team that I trust to do the work. In terms of challenges, I would say collaboration is usually a little bit of a problem, especially when the site gets to 75%. So you're getting to finishes, getting to. I think most of the foundation is over, the shell is over. So even there are lesser or site visits, project is almost over. Perhaps at this stage you don't need the engineer much, more of the architect. So you find even coordinating them, and they're also busy in other sites. It's also a challenge. But when you have the project charter, is whereby you hold them to account. The other one is if you have the right team, you don't have to worry about things getting stolen on site. A fundi doing a masonry holding wrongly. Yeah, basically that is more of holding people to account and putting records. Because as I've said, even the client can go rogue to go and start issuing instructions without you knowing.
Okay, thank you. Then there is a question in the chat box by Joseph Kanyeri. He's asking, how is the current uptake of AI in construction projects in Kenya? And is there a good market if we get the AI skills?
Perhaps I can first ask him what does he mean by AI skills?
Yes, Joseph, could you please answer that if you can?
Okay, there are technologies in the construction sector like the digital twin technology. So maybe such training yourself in such kind of technology. That is what I mean.
Okay, now you see when you say the Kenyan market, I will say the biggest focus is you be clear on who you are targeting, because those things are actually beneficial to developers, and most likely developers who have I can say a foreign backup, like the guys of Mvida. Who are the other ones? Those ones, you know them, because those ones are convinced of the need of those softwares. Our local contractors, they can't buy, but you see, there is no use of somebody buying your software in January because it was not clear of how it helped him, it disappears for good. So the market is there, and there is no need to look at Kenya only. You can look at across East Africa, but you be very clear on the target, and your value proposition must be in a way that you're clearly answering that question of why they need it. The market is there. That I am very sure of.
I thank you for that answer. So, any other person with a question or a concern may just raise his or her hand or can write in the chat box.
Okay, I think I can ask my question. Uh, who hasn't spoken here today? Mr. Duncan, can you see the question in the screen? Brian, Tobias, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, yeah, you're audible.
Duncan is saying he's in the bus and not able to communicate.
Okay, I see Tobias is on.
Yeah, 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 I'm on.
Yeah,
You can
have you
see.
seen the question?
Yeah, yeah.
So, which is the correct answer?
I think the correct answer here is that AI eliminate all construction risk, because you see that is not true. AI cannot eliminate everything, but it can only solve some part of the risk, most part of the risk, I mean.
Yeah, Charles, what's your response?
I think I share the same response with Tobias, because in as much as we can count on AI to streamline some processes, it cannot again foresee all the risks and eliminate them. Most importantly,
Yeah, that's correct. I've seen a question here about construction manager and project manager. A project manager does what I've presented today, and that is about the process. That entire process that I've explained today is what a project manager does. A construction manager is somebody who is usually he takes charge on site. So the quality assurance, quality control, uh, those inspections, doing reports and documentation, that is now a construction manager. A project manager does this. The execution part, his work is more of coordination, not actual hands-on implementation. I hope that is clear.
yeah, yes, it is. Thank you.
So I wish now to drop off the call. And
Just before you go, I have something maybe we just clarify. As one of the executive members of the Association of Construction Managers, so perhaps in this call there might be someone who would want to maybe in the future practice as a project manager or construction project manager. What is the general procedure? Because I think you have as of now you have an association. So to practice as a project manager or a construction project manager in Kenya, what are the requirements that you need to have? Maybe if you've not studied the course in university.
first, there is no shortcut. There is usually a tendency of people thinking they can get titles by virtue of practicing. Like I've seen a QS somewhere calling himself an architect because he does more of architecture. But the first easiest way is having an undergraduate degree in construction management, which is available in university. But for your case now, with your degree in engineering, you have to have practiced for 7 years as a project manager and done a master's in construction project management. Only by that we will allow you in. Otherwise, no. You can practice outside. The industry is not that well regulated. But for you to be a member and now to practice legally, it is the procedure we indicated.
Oh, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Uh, I don't know if you guys are out of session, but usually communicate a little bit when their attendance is not that wide. Perhaps they had an issue with the tailored topic. So anyway, for those in, it's a pleasure to meet you. and see you around.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Mangi. It was a pleasure having you today as well. I think maybe it's just think it is a Friday, that's why a number of people are not in. But I think next time we'll have a good number. Thank you. So I think the meeting is adjourned and everyone is free to leave at their own pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
A great night, y'all. Joseph Kanyiri, what do you
Same.
mean by technology?